Hello everyone, today we're going to be doing a really cool pop-up card activity. This is mine. This uses very simple materials that you can just use in your house. As far as sending these in the mail, I did a little research and I think I got more confused than I started. But you can always make this card just for fun. You could give it to someone else in your home, or you could always put it away for later so that you can send it out maybe in a week or so. So, it's a cool activity. Let's get started. Supplies that we're going to need for this project are 2 pieces of paper. Actually, you're probably going to want more, maybe a bunch of paper, just in case you mess up. But ultimately, we're going to need 2 pieces of paper. We'll also need a pair of scissors, a glue stick, or tape works too, but glue sticks are great. Crayons, colored pencils, some sort of coloring implement, and a pen is helpful as well. So let's get started here. This supplies off to the side. And to get started, we're going to take one of our sheets of paper, and this is going to become the base of our card. We'll fold this in half, just lengthwise like you would any old card. Crease the edges here and open it up. So you can actually choose the orientation you'd want for your card here. We can open it this way, or we can open it this way. I prefer this method because this way a card will kind of open up and become almost like a scene. We can actually put a background on this side, and then we can put like a ground or a floor here, which is kind of cool. So the first thing we're going to do is just go ahead and start coloring our background. And then we're going to go ahead and color the base. Mine's just going to be grass. Perfect. Alright, so that's the basic background and floor for our card. So we're going to just fold that up and put it aside for a minute. Next thing we're going to do is draw the figures for our pop-out part. So we're going to go ahead, I'm just going to draw some flowers, making like a flowery scene here. Make a couple different types, some different colors. I'm just going to separate them a little bit because ultimately these are going to be cut out so that they become their own individual pop-outs for each one. And I'm going to make a little sun to put on there as well. Next, we're going to go ahead and cut these out. I started off cutting out my red one and did it the hard way first, trying to cut each line individually. And then I remembered that there's actually a much easier way to cut, which is to do the roundabout. Cut out a big swath first, and then we'll go back and cut the individual pieces afterwards. Makes it a lot easier to get in all those little nooks and crannies. It's also worth noting that if your cutting skills, aren't the best, you don't necessarily have to cut out every tiny little detail. It can always be a bigger kind of halo around if you'd like. I did decide to make a couple more flowers for these tulipy looking flowers here. I'll go ahead and cut those out. Get my final flower out here and my sun. Great. Now it's time to figure out where I want to mount my foreground characters. And I'm just going to lay these out, decide where I want everything to be on my card. Put a sun up here, put my flowers. Another flower over here. Perfect. Alright, now that I have my layout, I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to go ahead and mark where I want each of these to be so that I can put my cutouts into those spots for my pop-ups. So 1, 2, 3 flowers. My sun, I don't really care where that's going to go. I'm going to put that in later. Go ahead and fold up the card, and then I'm just going to draw a little line from... if I make my mark hard enough, I can actually look through the paper, and I should be able to see the mark on the other side, and I should be able to draw a little line. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where I want my different flowers to be on the base, so how far out do I want them to pop out. And I actually messed up a little bit here. This line should have been a lot shorter. My middle line should have been shorter. So shorter, smaller cuts will end up being more towards the back of the image. Longer cuts will be more towards the front of your card. And you can play with this a little bit too. These are square cuts, they're the easiest ones to do, but after you make one, go ahead and try playing with making the background a longer cut and the base or the ground a shorter cut, and vice versa. You'll find that you can make much more interesting designs that way. So now we'll open up the card and we pull the tabs inward, fold it over, and smooth it out a little bit, and you'll see we have a little notch that opens up the opposite direction of the card. Go ahead and do that to all three here. Fold it in the middle, then I'll close the card and make sure that fold is nice and even on the inside. Perfect. And the third one. Beautiful. All right. So I have my scene, I have my positions for my different, and so you'll notice here that the long one is further up front. Now I'm just going to go ahead and add some glue to each one of these pop-up tabs that we just made. And I'll start sticking my flowers to it, making sure to not overlap over the crease at the bottom. Another thing I can do to make my life a little bit easier is I could mark the center points of that fold line so that I don't accidentally put glue. You really only want glue on the front part of these pop-up tabs. Or hey, you could do something on top of the pop-up tabs. That's a cool thing to experiment with as well. I'll put that second flower and my third flower on. Now you'll notice the flower right now is a little bit floppy. We're going to address that in a second. This is kind of a good opportunity to show you actually a good way to fix floppy things. But first, let's get the sun on here. So if we want to do something that's not necessarily attached to the base, we can always do the accordion method. So we'll just take another piece of paper, cut a little slit out of it, and then we'll make a little fold on the top, and then we will do another fold, a little fold the other way, and then we'll just fold back and forth, making a little accordion that opens up. And that's going to be how we can mount our sun so that it pops out up top, up high. A little glue on there, stick it right there. I'll move it just a little bit. Make sure my sun doesn't stick out of the card too much. A little glue. And we'll stick the sun on. Oh, hey, come back, sun. Perfect. And now I have my scene. Like I said though, we do have a kind of a floppy flower problem, so let's go ahead and fix that real quick. To fix my floppy flower problem, we're going to use a piece of cardboard from a cereal box. We're just going to go ahead and cut that into little strips, and we'll put a little glue on there and glue that to the back of my flowers. That way they have a little bit of rigidity to them and they stand up better. I'm just going to trim off some excess so you can't really see the cardboard sticking out from the sides, and glue those right back on. I did decide after about when I went to put this one on that I wanted to add a little bit more support, add a little bit more cardboard to the top of the flower there. And we'll add that, and the card should look pretty good now. Ta-da! Such a beautiful scene. And we just made our first pop-up card. Like I said, you can experiment with all kinds of different shapes, all kinds of different tabs. One thing I want to show you real quick is to prevent that floppy issue, if you are making thin things like these flowers, you could just go ahead and pre-cut some cardboard, lay out some paper, glue it on there, and then you'll have a rigid surface. Thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to check out our website for more virtual learning opportunities and information on our live streams. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for more information. Thanks everyone.